Hello everybody, good times with Scar here, almost, and welcome to the March and April Weeb wrap-up, the ongoing bi-monthly series in which the host of this channel, TheDramaticOtaku, goes through every single manga and anime series they have been reading and watching throughout the past 2 months. This month, March, is very jam-packed, surprisingly. So grab your favorite Lego mug that I'm so happy that I got, get your favorite drink in it, and let's just get in and jump into it. But before we begin, I always forget to add this part. Spoiler warning ahead for every single series that I am talking about, and I really mean it, because in March anime I talk about the final 2 movies of a series. So that being said, let's jump into March manga. Picking up really from where we left off last month, which was February, we have Like a Butterfly, Volume 3. So I'm progressively starting to like the rival less. She's just sad and frustrating as a character now, instead of being the funny comedic character rival that she was before. Too much of her character is going into her being in love with Kawasumi and not really explaining why, and not really developing much of a character other than her purposefully getting in the way of Suirin, which I love Suirin, she is my girl. It is what rivals do, and I actually think the purposeful cover of Suirin's mouth as she tries to speak was a pretty good move in terms of her actual character. Did I hate it? Yes, because obviously Kawasumi and Suirin forever. But it made sense, which I appreciate in this character. Bad villain characters, rival characters should do rival things and should do villain things. She does a rival thing and I really love it. But other than that, she's really whiny and just sad right now, and it's annoying more than anything else. Development wise, the embarrassment that our love interests, Kawasumi and Suirin, have is so annoying because they avoid each other practically the entire volume, which in a romance, I want to see them together. I want to see their love bloom. So them avoiding each other for an entire volume is antithetical to what I want to see as a consumer. It's, in general, an okay volume. I just feel like it was hit after hit of just annoying and unlikable traits and plot points in this volume, specifically that led to a downturn of the series off of a really good summer festival arc and scene, really. So this one was kind of a disappointment. I gave it a 6 out of 10 just because, yeah. Next, so in, I believe it was February, Mashal, which I called Mashley when I did my mega manga haul. Mashal got very popular, and I wasn't initially going to get into the series because it just sort of looked like another comedy anime. And then I got it in the $300 bundle, and here it is. First volume, it's another comedy anime. But personally, this was fucking hilarious. I totally want to read more of Mashal. Simply put, the actual story of Mashal is that Mash is a man without magic in a realm of magic users. The hierarchy of this world is the more power you have, the better you will fare in society. Mash, born without any powers, people want to kill him off. He, from a young age, is trained in physical skills for self-defense reasons. As non-magic users, as found by a lack of magic mark on his face, on one's face, are taken away and potentially killed, jailed. So the mark that Mash has on here is a fake one, and you find that out in the first volume. Mash and his father live in the woods, with Mash having strict instructions not to go into the city. So he goes into the city to buy cream puffs, obviously. When he's found out as a non-magic user, he is chased by the police only to prove that all those years of training had left him with some wild, insane amounts of physical power. Like, I am talking he defies gravity kind of physical power. Threatened the corrupt officer, I think it's fucking Brian or something like that. Brian says, if you can win this prestigious title at this prestigious wizard school, I will leave you and your father alone, but I want the fame and money. And Mash agrees. Somehow, he gets in with his strength alone, and chaos ensues as the highest of society want to bring him down for being at a wizard school and seemingly not using magic. Mashle is a hilarious comedy series that I really enjoy, and there's clear influences from the likes of One Punch Man or Gintama, as well as, unfortunately, Harry Potter. I love this, honestly, a lot. The deadpan style of comedy that is Mashle is in other series that I like, such as I said before, One Punch Man, but also like the likes of Psyche K. I also love the bizarrely common names, as well as the cast of characters we are slowly accruing. I also love the slapstick panels and the baby girlifications of some of the buffer characters. I'm talking about Brian. Mashle is definitely up my alley in terms of comedy, and I'll definitely be picking up the anime series as well, but I'm going to get my hands on more of the volumes of the manga first. Let's put a pin in that. Personally, I gave this a 9 out of 10, but I gave it like a low 9. I think it's a really good for a laugh, but I'm kind of just like, the story is pretty basic. So yeah, it's a 9 for humor, but like a low 9, closer to an 8 really. Moving on, we have the start of a new series for me, one that I have reviewed, the live action 70s adaptation, the French movie that's in English based off of a Japanese series, The Rose of Versailles. So starting with volume 1, The Rose of Versailles is really, really difficult to summarize, as it is a massive volume. There are 5 volumes of The Rose of Versailles in the current day, and I think the original series had like 11 volumes, but these volumes are fucking massive. Spoiler for later, this is volume 2. I borrowed these from friend Mia, and I am now starting my own collection. And the thing with The Rose of Versailles, it's a massive story that spans multiple points of view. The main 3 characters get switched between continuously, and as the series continues, it only really has 2 main characters, Lady Oscar, Marie Antoinette. But we basically, in the first volume, follow Marie Antoinette and Oscar de Jage. Their names have been wildly shrunken, just so you guys can vaguely know their names. And their lives from the ages of 15 to 22-ish, at least in the first volume. Focusing on, with the first main part of volume 1, focusing on Marie Antoinette's perspective, how she came to be the Queen of France, and how she fell into public distaste. As you guys know, I talked about the live action movie during December, one of which follows Oscar specifically. The movie is called Lady Oscar, which is why I said Lady Oscar instead of Oscar de Jage before. So I was a little taken aback when we mainly focused on Marie Antoinette for the first 10 to 15 chapters of a 22 chapter novel. We also do have more of a focus on characters such as Rosalie, Jean, and understanding more so on Fersen and Oscar's feelings. I will say it's very difficult to get into because it's a lot of information at once, especially with the narrative tone of the series being very clear, I guess is the best way I can describe it. Very posh, because they're talking about monarchical France, bourgeoisie France. I found the series sort of picked up more around the 10 chapter mark when they're not bombarding you with information. In general, for the entire first volume, my favorite character honestly has to be Rosalie and Oscar. Oscar was given much more of a boyish type personality, which I love and makes more sense to Oscar's character, and Rosalie's story is just fucking tragic. She lost 3 people she knows to a fucking monarch in a carriage. She can't win. 2 people. 2 people fucking murdered. One of them just takes her sister. The other 2 dead. Overall, I really like the series. It itches the scratch of fashion, French aristocracy, and history that I really honestly love reading about every sort of couple of years. Next, I haven't pulled out this volume because it's sitting on my shelf and I can't be fucked at the moment. Otaku Elf. I gave The Rose of Versailles an 8 out of 10. Otaku Elf. So this was an okay slice of life series, but I do not see myself continuing the series whatsoever. It's just not a series that appeals to me. It is, as it says, it's an elf who is an otaku. You'd think I'd be into that seeing the name of my goddamn channel, but no. It's an elf who's an otaku. She's a deity of a shrine in modern Tsukushima, and has been around since the Edo era, where for the story we follow Koito and who is her new Miko, and how Koito has to deal with Elda the elf. It's a lot more one-shots around Elda essentially being a hikikomori and a massive otaku, which doesn't particularly appeal to me, so I will be dropping the series. I personally gave volume 1 a 5 out of 10. Apparently also there's an anime for Otaku Elf. I'm not watching it. This really, honestly, this kind of bored me. I feel like I should give it less, but it's also not as abhorrent as anything else that I've given less than a 5 out of 10 for. So, in February and January, I talked about Watakoi. Love is hard for an otaku, as you can see. This is volumes 3 through 6, which is the last volumes of the series. So how did this happen? So I had volumes 1 and 2 and volume 4 because they were all on sale, so I got them in a bundle, I think in like December. I went to go buy volume 3 as a little treat because I really wanted to continue the series because volume 2 left on a cliffhanger for Ko and Now. So I went to buy volume 3. And I buy volume 5 by accident. When I received volume 5, I sit there and go, I need volume 3. And for the rest of the series, there's only 2 more volumes that I need to collect. Volume 3 and volume 6. I'm just gonna buy the rest of the series. So that is what I did. So I also binged the rest of the series because I'm like, if I'm getting it, I'm just gonna binge it. So, starting off with the catalyst for this entire collection, volume 3. This is so fucking cute. I'm so happy to have a good conclusion to the cliffhanger that we left off on with Ko. Ko is like such a cute character, even if she's the slightly more sociable version of Hirotaka. Speaking of Hirotaka, his feelings towards Narumi scream loud and clear in this volume. And there's so many perfect and cute moments throughout this volume in particular that I just love. Like, the ongoing chapter in this volume is episode 39, of which ended the volume, and we saw an awesomely cute scene of Hirotaka and Narumi hanging out after a company trip in which Narumi mostly spent alone. Narumi approaches Hirotaka, and when he's alone, and there's just this moment of quiet when they're in each other's presence, and you can just tell how much Hirotaka is in love with Narumi, and just how much Narumi does in fact care for Hirotaka too. I absolutely adore the butterflies this one gave me. Volume 3, 9 out of 10. Then we move on to volume 4. This is where it went into brain rot, ships being fucking cute, progress and romance. This volume, Kabakura and Hanako, which is the 2 characters on the front, get fucking engaged. Naoya, that's his full name, Naoya, is starting to figure out he likes Ko, and we get a cute Hirotaka and Narumi moment together. Of course, I fucking love it. Also, headcanon, Hanako is fucking bi. I don't know if she's actually mentioned it or not, but I think Hanako is bi. Anyway, I love her so much. Good volume, much cute. My heart is pleased. I love this series. 10 out of 10 volume. Moving on. Volume 5. Cute. Ko and Nao are together. I love it. Kabakura and Hanako get fucking married. And there's just cute married life and college romance pining. Plus some Hirotaka and Narumi cuteness as well, but with the character arcs coming close for Kabakura, Hanako, Ko, and Nao, that leaves some romantic development between Narumi and Hirotaka. Specifically in the final moment. Also love that the volume art often reflects who the volume is mostly about. Even the mid panel, I honestly love it so much, and that is true. The front art usually reflects what characters are being focused on in the specific volume. I think volume 1 was obviously Hirotaka and Narumi. Volume 2, I believe, was Kabakura and Hanako. Volume 3 was obviously Ko and Nao. 4, Kabakura and Hanako, Ko and Nao. And that leaves me onto the final volume, Volume 6. First of all, Volume 5 got a 9 out of 10. Volume 6, so fucking cute. I will say, there not being a proper epilogue makes me a little sad, but it was very cute. I love the drama between Hirotaka and Narumi, and I love the cute beginning to Ko and Nao's relationship, and I can't get over that Hana ends up being pregnant. This is so cute. Oh my god, I love it so much. Overall, the series gets a solid 9 out of 10. There were parts that were still a little confusing or disappointing, but I didn't have the heart to give this less than a 9. I honestly really love Watakoi, and I will be picking up the anime for it. And from one cute romance to another, we finally move on to the fucking massive volume that I was flashing before I have to return it tomorrow. This being the Rose of Versailles Volume 2. This is heavy as shit. There are 3 more volumes. And this volume is a majority of what the Lady Oscar film is. So I don't know what's gonna happen in the next 3 fucking volumes. And I'm scared. Volume 2 specifically is where the Lady Oscar film takes a lot of plot points from. Rosalie is still a very much loved character of mine, despite the fact that she is kind of just useless and is there and is dragged along by the plot a lot. I do still love her. I was happy to see her married off to Bernard, and we still get the weird sexual assault from Andre that happens in the series. It's worse in the book. It is worse in the book than it is in the movie. I had a lot of discomfort with how Andre confessed his love to Oscar in the movie. Worse in the book. Absolutely worse in the book. Anyway, but to have earlier hints that Andre is in love with Oscar is progress, because it isn't just jumped upon. Now, we jump a few years in Volume 2 as Marie Antoinette has 3 children. Fersen goes to fight in the American fight for independence and comes back in the same volume, only to become Marie Antoinette's lover, and Oscar is starting to understand the people of France and how they are living, purposely demoting herself to a much lower guard, and thus the scene in which her guardsmen disrespect her. I didn't understand that in the original. I didn't understand that in the Lady Oscar film. Now I do. Personally, at this point in the story, I'm getting stale of Marie Antoinette, as her storyline feels like punch after punch of just drama. Like, why is she now just listening to Fersen when like 3 other people were telling her not to do this shit years ago? It's too little too late, babes. So personally, very annoying. I love Oscar in this volume, from her going to the dance in this absolutely gorgeous gown as a woman, so pretty, to her then being so offended when she's called a lesbian and is inferred to be Marie Antoinette's lesbian lover. She's like, what do you mean? Lesbian me? Gorgeous. You gave Rosalie a picture of yourself when she went to go live in the house of Polniak. And on top of that, multiple times throughout 2 of 5 volumes, said, if I was a man, I would marry Rosalie. Sure, in a sentiment to help her. Sure, but you were very intent on marrying Rosalie, and Rosalie definitely very much loved you in a romantic way, and you thought she was light and refreshing, and you're offended that you get called a lesbian? Are you? You are one. Anyway, I love the series. I gave this a 8.5 out of 10, the absolute drama, and I read this in like 2 days. But that being said, that is all of the March manga for this month, so let's move into March anime, which I'm going to switch into comfy clothes for. So we move into the anime portion of March, which isn't a lot, but I talk a lot, so strap in. First, as I said, let's pull the pin out of Mashal season 1. First of all, I love this quote, "God is dead, ma'am." Love it. This is totally a parody of Harry Potter. Like 100% a parody of Harry Potter. So obviously Harry Potter. Like based on me reading the manga, I was hoping there'd be like some form of variation, but this is 100% influenced by Harry Potter. And I don't know how to feel about it, to be quite honest. In the equivalent episodes to manga volumes, Episodes 1 through 4 is volume 1. And personally, the actual anime itself isn't as funny as the manga. It's still funny. I still find it funny. It's just not as like, I wasn't outwardly laughing as much to the series as compared to when I was reading it in manga form. Picking up from where we left off in the manga, why is the cool villain at the end of volume 1 a fucking sister complex? Also, MASH picks up villains as friends so much in this anime. Personally, this is very on par with most comedy anime in the same style, like One Punch Man and Psyche K, but I will admit it is the lesser of these anime. Again, not awful. I prefer the execution in the manga than the anime, and I still very much enjoy it, but it's not the best of comedy anime that I have seen, and is practically One Punch Man meets Harry Potter. I gave this a 8 out of 10, but now that I think about it, I think I should give it a 7 out of 10 instead. Also, Gant voice... fucking Gigic. Gant voices in Mashal too. So next, I finally got to watch the free films. This being Free Take Your Marks Part 1 and Take Your Marks Part 2. Starting with Take Your Marks Part 1, you really just had to undo 3 seasons of growth between Rin and Haru in the last 10 minutes of the fucking film. I pretty much fully blacked out during the end of season 3 because I was very lost at the start of this film. And I will say I did zone out a little bit during the middle of the first film as well, as it's a lot of like soulful feeling about their futures, much like in season 3 and most of the series, to be quite honest. But this time it was just a bit much. I did actually really like the sudden drama shift in Haru with him getting to his goal and not knowing really what to do, and then being so flustered by Albert as well. So much so that he lashed out at Rin, and it had the same, essentially, no, it had a lesser gay impact than the season 1 tussle, but similar gay impact to the season 1 tussle. Loved it. If the entire movie was that one scene at the very end of the film, I would have eaten this shit up, but to be fair, it's setting up the second part to be exactly that, and I honestly can't wait. Also, elephant in the room. The Swedish swimmer Albert only speaks English. as does his coach. And where season 2 benefited in having good English voice actors with accurate Australian accents, this movie does not. The English, while understandable, is so very robotic and totally not what the characters are saying. It's incredibly stiff and, again, borderline robotic. I understand it's either likely a lack of English voice actors in Japan, or for a delivery that Japanese audiences who are learning or understand English can grasp onto, to hold on to and understand when watching this. But dude, Albert is so stiff. So stiff. It takes me right out of the scenes that he's in when he starts fucking yapping, okay? Extremely stiff, very unexpressive, and I can't get a great read on Albert as a character. I can see what he potentially is, but the voice acting isn't reflecting that. First film, I gave a 6 out of 10. It's not great, but it sets itself up to be something great in part 2. Speaking of part 2, Free cannot escape the gay allegations between Rin and Haru specifically. Maybe also Makoto and Haru, but specifically Rin and Haru. Originally, that note was very specific to Rin and Haru. It also does now include Makoto, because this fucking film is so fucking gay. And that's not me being a fujoshi, like, it's not like, I have been watching this series since season 1. I was 13, essentially. I was like 13, 14, most likely 13 when I started this series. There was one season when I started this series. Season 2 had just been announced. So, when I was into this series at its peak, I was influenced a lot by the fujoshi culture, and that's how I became like a fujoshi in my early to mid-teens, right? Safe to say, never once has this show given me an actual iota of this is so gay. It has been other people influencing me into thinking that. That is what I mean by I was 13 and swept up by the fujoshi culture behind this fucking fandom, right? This film made me say, oh my god, this is so gay. Like, I can't express that entire series as it's come out has sort of just been like, oh haha, this is gay. Everyone's like really shipping these two characters, but not really perceiving that it's like, oh no, it's not really gay, you know? And as I've grown up, I was like, haha, that was really fun. Shipping all the characters like when I was a teenager, haha. This final film, that is two boyfriends. Those are boyfriends. Those are Haru's boyfriends. I watched this film and noted down several times that Rin was overtly gay for Haru, and so was Makoto. The first 40-ish minutes of this 1 hour and 40-minute film is Rin being emo that his boyfriend broke up with him. You know, that fight in the first film that just happened. Rin is emo, his boyfriend essentially broke up with him because Haru is stressed the fuck out. Makoto is also insanely worried for and about Haru and Rin. I shit you not, I noted down multiple times, nah, this is Free, the story of Haru and his two boyfriends. Because why would the series essentially repeat one of the moments that took the fujoshi world by storm, the Rin-Haru fight of season 1, and why would Rin, as a nearly 20-year-old, be so fucking emo about it? He's lived through this before. All of this has happened to Rin before. Why would he be like, yes, Haru said some hurtful shit. He really said some hurtful shit to Rin, right? Why would Rin be so fucking emo about it? Like, not even just the way Rin's acting, the way Sosuke talks to Haru about Rin's behavior after their fight. that sounds like they're talking about a much closer friendship than just friends. Like, also, in the first film, with how torn up Haru gets over actually hurting Rin, this all comes to a head when Makoto and Rin find Haru at a night pool, and Rin and Haru have a race to make Haru feel better, which, first of all, it's been 3 seasons and 5 movies. Why the fuck do these fuckers always have their bathers on? I get Haru, that's his character trait, that's his quirky little flaw, but Rin, what the fuck? Why are you just always ready to race Haru? Makoto's the only normal one here. Anyway, but that being said, after their race, we see Haru finish and say he's not out of breath, which is a surprise because that is what he has been struggling with overexerting himself in the last 2 films, thus resulting in the fight with Rin. We then cut to a shot of the water and hear a splash. I fully expected the next shot to be Rin kissing Haru. This was a legitimate moment of like, oh, they're gonna kiss. Oh, this is happening. They didn't. It was just a hug. But I was legitimately expecting them to fucking kiss. The same thing happened in, I think, a movie in January where I was like, oh, they're gonna kiss. That's totally a moment where they'd kiss, and they ended up hugging instead. And I think it happened in when Marnie was there, and that's why it's throwing me through a fucking loop again. This was legitimate expectation, because that kind of scene is very, very normal when 2 characters are fighting and are also love interests. And this film made me want to go back through the series and go, was it always this gay? I am legitimately not kidding about that, because Rin and Haru's interactions in season 1 is understandable. They're teenagers, they have a rivalry, rivals to friends again, from being friends to no longer being friends to being rivals to being friends again. That is season 1, and that is entertaining, and their interactions make sense, you know? Same with season 2. Season 3 muddies the waters a bit, because they're adults, and Rin has fucked off to another country again. But because of this, I'd thought I'd grown out of the whole Rin Haru Makaharu shit, right? That is what I thought when I watched Take Your Marks, when I watched Dive to the Future. Hell, when I watched High Speed, that was my thoughts and opinions. I have not had a genuine thought of this is so gay that hasn't been influenced by the fandom until this final fucking film. Which makes me think that Rin and Haru have had some kind of actual gay subtext in the series that I just haven't fully perceived because I was like, haha, funny gay, but not actually. It's just fandom stuff, right? Right? Until this fucking film. Also, this isn't like attacking the Makaharu ship. Makoto has been pining for Haru, and we know that. We've always known that. But I'm saying that the way Rin and Haru react to each other is not normal, and not how normal friends act. And there's specifically one conversation that Rin has with Ikuya that he basically says, our friendship isn't that simple, when Ikuya asked if he was happy that Haru won or frustrated that Haru won. And Rin says, our friendship isn't that simple. That is 100% a misquote, but it is essentially what he says, and it's very vague. Why would he be pissed off that Haru won if he wasn't worried about him? Obviously, that's more of a friend thing to do. You can be worried about your friends. But our friendship isn't that simple? Would it be because he's your boyfriend? Anyway, I can see a good friendship between Haru and Ikuya, Haru and Asahi, Haru and fucking Kinjo, for fuck's sake. Our season 1 main cast, fucking Sosuke and Haru are better friends and have a viable friendship than whatever the fuck Rin and Haru have going on. That might be because Rin and Haru are overtly our protagonists, but I can't fathom anything else than a closer than friends relationship between them. This is when Marnie was here all over again. Also, big setting in the free series is at their elementary school, under a cherry blossom tree with a set of bricks. Two bricks in particular, one that says free and one that says for the team. Very important to the series. I have only ever perceived the free brick and the for the team brick because they zoom in on it a lot. The full sentence is, I swim best free for the team. That is what the bricks say. I was so confused as to what free for the team means, other than being like, it's English, they're Japanese, so it's broken English, I guess, but the sentence, I swim best free for the team, makes infinitely more sense. Why did they not show that full shot earlier in the series? And if they did, why didn't I perceive it? Other than that, in the film itself, I don't understand Albert's relevance as a character. His space could have been filled essentially by Kinjo. I can't even remember if that's that dude's actual fucking name. And it probably would have been a more interesting story, because in Kinjo's story, that takes up an unfortunate amount of time and he doesn't really interact with any other character. You could have made Kinjo the villain of both of the films and it would have made this entire thing infinitely more interesting. I think the only reason they included Albert is because they wanted a foreign swimmer, because to emphasize they're going to the world and like other countries have like better swimmers or whatever, or have like more competitive swimmers. First of all, why did you get an Australian character? Because you have Rin swimming in Australia. Why would you get a Swedish character to do? I don't understand that thought process. But also, if you wanted a like compelling character, don't include Kinjo. Like, you don't need him as another character, really. You could have filled that spot with Asahi or Ikuya or even Hayato. Is that his name? I can't remember. Ikuya's friend. You could have included Ikuya's friend instead as well. You did not need that to be an entirely new character just for these films. And this is what I mean by I blacked out in season 3 because I did not know who this fucking guy was. So I don't know if he's in the end of season 3, but I do not recall his existence. So I love also throughout the entire series how Ai has become such a dependable character since season 1. He was one of the most annoying characters in season 1 and now he's honestly one of my favorite. Genuinely the one character with honestly the biggest growth in the entire series. And Sosuke being lost in the very beginning of the film is my favorite character trait of his. So fucking funny. I love this movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10, mainly because it threw me through such a loop on how gay it is. Like, seriously. This is, again, I cannot stress, this isn't me being a shipper. Like, this is legitimately me going, when was this show this goddamn gay? Was everyone right and I was just like going along with it because I was 13? Like, so confused. Anyway, that is all for March anime. Now we move into April anime. I watched no anime, and if I seem a little bit distracted in this part of the video is because I am watching possibly the last couple of hours of the Tubathon, because that has consumed my life for the last 2 months. Somehow I was able to fucking watch March just fine, but as soon as it encroached onto April, I couldn't watch anything else. Also because of our next segment, April anime. So this entire month has been focused on two things: the girls and the gays, and gay girls. So, unlike in March, where I had borrowed the first two volumes of the Rose of Versailles from Mia, I instead started purchasing the volumes of the Rose of Versailles, and that sort of overtook my entire persona for April. Now, that being said, I actually technically haven't finished this volume of the Rose of Versailles, which is volume 4 out of 5. I'll talk about that when we get to it though, because I have two other books to talk about, this being volume 4 of Like a Butterfly and volume 2 of The Moon on a Rainy Night. Now I'm going to talk about volume 4 first, if I can get to the thing. Waterkoi, there we go. So, these are going on. Wait a second. I forgot one of the gay books. Just redid those shells. Video coming next week. Anyway, I also have another one. Anyway, volume 4, Like a Butterfly. So this is a very short review. So a lot happened, and I don't think I perceived any of it. Again, Tabletop brain rot plus all of the Rose of Versailles shit I've been reading. I feel like I'm in a transitional phase of an anime, like a filler episode, but we've also got like a rival and a Kawasumi kinda confession that like Kawasumi likes Suiren. That is confirmed to Suiren, but we're at a point where it's at a miscommunication trope because Suiren didn't fucking say anything. I also really liked how they showed the exact same moments, as in like the same scene from different perspectives. I don't like, usually in manga and anime, if they switch perspectives per chapter, it will be like the character suddenly reliving the scene. It's the exact same moment played just from the different characters' perspective in this book, which is something that I find different but actually quite refreshing for the like series, or for like romance manga. Personally, I gave this a 6 out of 10. The series is just kind of a blur and sort of just sitting on my radar vaguely. That's why I've put it here, because I don't actually know if I'm going to continue collecting it, but I do like vaguely like it. I think the first volume was really good, and then it's sort of just like fluttering away like a butterfly. That being said, we're going to move on to the second of the manga that I read this month. The Moon on a Rainy Night. First of all, it's a little damaged on the cover, which I'm a little mad about, but I like the one-sided pining that is going on with Kanon and Saki, but please don't give Kanon a crush on the teacher, please. It really feels like the story was going that way in this book, and I know that's the contention of the volume, and it's explained away at the end that Kanon just appreciates that he treats her normally, that the teacher treats her normally. But I still can't help but feel like this is gonna somehow lead into a student-teacher romance in some form, and it is scaring the shit out of me. Personally, not a comfy feeling. Anyway, Kanon's little sister is an interesting addition. I hope we see her trust Saki soon and maybe make her a more likable character, because she's quite annoying in this book. Other than that, I couldn't really get into the romantic moments because I was freaking that Kanon potentially liked the teacher, and that is something that I didn't want. I want Kanon and Saki to get together. Anyway, 7 out of 10. I'm still invested in this story, but it just feels like whiplash compared to the first volume. I think the main thing that threw me off, first of all, was I was still in that really weird phase after I had just finished Like a Butterfly, but also I just couldn't handle the potential. Like, it was setting itself up like Kanon had a crush on the teacher, and I'm just like, I don't. Please don't. No, please don't. I don't need this. I ranked this as one of my top manga last year. Please, no. So it doesn't look like that's happening. I will probably get volume 3 eventually. Not right now, as I am kind of focusing on saving for Oz Comic Con. Anyway, moving on, we are not going to go straight to the Rose of Versailles, even though I had read volume 3 before our next entry. I want all of the Rose of Versailles stuff to sort of be in one punch. So I'm going to move on to Old Fashioned Cupcake with Cappuccino. Now, full disclaimer, this is a sequel to a first story that I have not read. I didn't know this when I picked this up at the bookstore. So I saw this and was gonna be, I saw this and thought, oh my god, this is gonna be a cute little gay romance. First of all, I was not in a great mental headspace, and so I picked up 3 books that I didn't need to pick up. I picked up this. I picked up a Tokyo fashion book that I've been eyeing for literal months, and that was the main thing I was gonna get. Picked up that book. Picked up this. I found a Aizawa book. Now, I've bought 3 series of Aizawas. I've bought Nana, which I did see at the bookstore, but I just didn't buy because I'm still waiting for volume 2 to come from Manga Mate, but I can't get it because they're still waiting on a pre-order item. That's already taken like 6 months to not arrive. So Nana's gonna have to wait a while. But no, I bought Paradise Kiss a little while ago that I needed to get into, but I wasn't going to get into because I was reading The Rose of Versailles. And then I saw Neighborhood Story, which is the other one of Aizawa's like most popular work. Oh, for fuck's sake. I bought Neighborhood Story, a Tokyo fashion book that's in line with, like, I have a Paris and London fashion book. It's part of a series. Anyway, I then picked this up because it looks really cute. Look at this. It looks like they're clearly old. Like, it's watercolor. They're clearly an older couple. But the thing with this, it was wrapped in plastic. I did not clock that it was wrapped in plastic. What's even worse? This is a sequel. I didn't actually realize it was a sequel until halfway through the fucking book. I will be reviewing this as if it is a single novel, as I didn't realize until halfway through the story that it probably was a sequel and thought it was going to be like a cute, mature romance. So we have our 2 main characters, Nozoe and his boyfriend, whose name I cannot remember. Togawa. Nozoe, who's the guy who's standing up, and Togawa, who's the guy who's sitting down. Nozoe is about nearly 40 and Togawa is about 30. So there's a 10-year age gap between them. A little bit of an age gap romance. It starts off with Nozoe taking care of Togawa and trying to be caring while also secretive of their relationship. Basically, this book does this shitty sequel trope of creating drama between the love interests by nearly making them break up and eventually come back together. I can count so many fucking BL that do this. I know Escape Journey essentially did this. I think Dekoboka Bittersweet Days does something similar as well. So many sequels to BL do this, and it is really fucking frustrating. I thought the art style was pretty, but Nozoe is really just a whiny prick, like a really unlikable character, and he's the protagonist. We see the story from his fucking perspective. He's not a likable protagonist and is really just a loser. I'm sure the first main story was lovely, was really good, but this just wasn't it and is a bit shit. Also, to the creators of these kinds of stories who originally just do a one-shot and then eventually do a sequel, put a number on the side of the fucking sequel, please. Or at least to the English distributors, if you know that this is the second part to a fucking one-shot, make it a fucking series, please. Because when I found out this was a sequel, I was so pissed off. And I found out because this random person just appears during the middle, and we're supposed to know who the fuck this is, and we don't know who the fuck this is. And it's really annoying, and that's how I figured out that it was a sequel. Putting the same name on it just isn't enough, because I know Dekoboko Sugar Days, the sequel Dekoboko Bittersweet Days. You have Go For It Nakamura, Go For It Again Nakamura. I feel like Go For It Again Nakamura heavily insinuates that it's a sequel. Dekoboko Bittersweet Days does not. Old Fashioned Cupcake with Cappuccino doesn't. Also, cappuccino because Nozue is bitter. 5 out of 10. It's cute aesthetics, kind of a shit story, but I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt because it is a sequel. Also, the fact that this was wrapped in plastic for as timid as the fucking sex scenes were in it. I know I don't review ecchi and stuff, and technically I think BL like this should fall under that label, but like with how just absent-minded I was and how frustrated this ended up making me, I felt like I needed to talk about it, about my opinionated shit. So, now we get to talk about what you're all waiting for, which is the rest of my Rose of Versailles opinions. So, Rose of Versailles Volume 3, these bitches are so fucking heavy. This is actually my volume. This is the first volume that I purchased. I purchased this and Volume 5 together, and then afterwards purchased Volume 4 because I couldn't fucking wait, because I was so excited after reading this. So, first of all, I love the cover of this. I love this, like, fucking turquoisey tealy green that this is. This is such a beautiful color. I love the pink on the front. I love the not even teal, this is more of a minty green, but it's also like a bluey mint, you know. I love the colors, so pretty. Once again, so much to go through in this story, but here is where we get gay kissing and straight kissing, and my queer heart is so in love with this. But the main plot is about the guards and the escalation of anger in Paris, the start of the revolution. We also see Asuka being more in touch with her feelings and at odds with her being a woman, as this is the volume where she is proposed to be married and throws a ball where she acts so wildly that she breaks her engagement, aka kissing women. But she also kisses Andre, so I love it. I understand the reason for... So, now I actually properly understand the reason for her being engaged in this story originally and why she breaks it. The original reason for her to be engaged isn't more so for her father's monetary gain, but as explained by Asuka's mother, it's to protect Asuka, because otherwise Asuka's going to march into battle where she will inevitably die. And the general knows this, and he doesn't want this for his daughter, because he knows that despite the fact that he's brought her up as a man, she is still a woman. So he tries to marry her off, which she fucking hates, and it doesn't end up happening. And I love her defiance of this whole trope of how do I put this? She has a moment where she asks her mother asks her father rather, that if she had been brought up a woman, would she be married off like her sisters? And her father says yes. And the fact that she is trying to be married off now is like a bit of a punch in the face for her. And so her defiance of this entire trope, of this entire system for her, is fantastic and wonderful, and I really love how it happens. Then the closest of Asuka and the guards, when they're not only the defiance in the actual engagement, but there's a lot of defiance of Asuka in this, as Asuka essentially joins the revolutionaries. And I don't mean literally, I mean in mindset. She is like, the people of Paris are suffering, I am joining these revolutionaries, I am listening to the people, and the guards are the people. It's like the guards Francois, I believe it is? No, it's like, I think the literal translation is the French guard. I I could be very wrong. But that's why I'm just saying the guards. So she is in charge of the guards, and she has been listening to their like gripes, their plots, their griefs, and at some point some of the guards get arrested, and so does Oscar, for being essentially traitors, even though they haven't really done anything at this point. And the guards get sent to jail, where they're going to be essentially executed. And when Oscar hears this, she acts like they're her children, and she acts the same way that Marie Antoinette does over Marie Antoinette's actual children. Oscar is just like, no, those are my soldiers. These are my men. And it's like, those are her babies. She acts like they're her children, and it's really funny. Also, in this book, there is a confession of love between Oscar and Andre. Andre goes blind, and there is about to be a march through Paris, which is why I bought volume 4. As the people have created their own army, and somehow there are 2 more novels. I don't know how this is gonna go on for any longer than a couple more chapters. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Oh my fucking god, I love this volume. I love the change of focus to more of Oscar, as the last 2 volumes I've been having. I love how this is bringing out more femininity from Oscar in nature, while she also tries keeping up her personality, having found out she would have been married off at a young age if she had been born and raised a woman. I love the exploration of gender and as being nurtured into Oscar, as well as the nature of her assigned sex, and how that comes into play in her empathy towards people and the guards, how her perception has changed to nobility, and how her perception has changed to nobility over the last volume. Now, the way I worded that makes it sound like, that she is empathetic because she is a woman. That's kind of what she blames it on in the book. She's like, curse me having a heart of a woman or something like that. And she's like, really just like, she's having a tough time for the fact that she can't disconnect herself from people all that much. And I would argue that that's not because she was born a woman, but rather that she's just generally empathetic, despite the fact that she was brought up quite militaristically. And I guess that is like an argument that can be made, but is also like nature versus nurture shit, you know. So that is something that she brings up a lot, and that's why I brought it up, because it is a good conversation, like, not a good conversation, it is a conversation of her and her gender and how she perceives herself versus how others perceive her, versus what people expect of her based on how she was raised versus her assigned sex. So I think that's very interesting, and I loved that exploration in this novel, even though it wasn't like directly explored from a quiz perspective. I do think that is an incredibly interesting way of going about it. So I gave this volume a 9 out of 10. It was incredibly enjoyable, and I loved it a lot. So volume 4. Now, as I said, I have not finished this volume. That would be because the actual main story finishes in this volume. Now, first of all, I want to point out the color of this one. This one's a dark blue. As you can see, it's the same as Oscar's uniform, and the inside is red. This is not only to mimic Oscar's uniform, but I believe it's also to partially mimic the French flag, even though it's not the correct shade of red. But it is essentially Oscar's volume, and I love that so much. It's such a nice touch, especially to the last volume of the series. So there is a lot to say about this. So as I said, I haven't properly finished the book itself, but with the main story concluded as of me writing and recording this video, I feel confident in giving a review, as within the main book itself, the story has concluded, and all that's left is really a more fictionalized side story. And I say more fictionalized because the premise of the side story is about vampires and stuff, and it's like a murder mystery kind of thing that's going on. So it's more in line with the side stories in this and the actual final 5th volume, I believe, are more so going to be in line with say like Revolutionary Girl Utena after the revolution, where it's not actually having anything to do with the main plotline of the story or the main continuity of the story, and these are stories that actually got released after the full story of the Rose of Versailles had been published. And I know this because in the contents page of every single book, it actually has what volume, what issue, and what year the chapter came out in, and all of the side stories came out after the Rose of Versailles, actually quite a few years after the Rose of Versailles concluded. And thus, with the end side stories not being a part of the main continuity of the story, I feel at this point it doesn't really have value to review in like the proper Weeb wrap up. I will most likely review the end side stories in tandem with the 5th volume in my next Weeb wrap up, just not in this one, especially because I want to start revising my original review of the Lady Oscar film that I reviewed back in December. So, as I mentioned, this is the last part of the Rose of Versailles, and wow, was it devastating. And a little underwhelming towards the end, to be 100% honest. First of all, within the first 5 to 10 chapters, we get the deaths of both Andre and Oscar, which I did know, and it was also fucking devastating. Because I also realized that meant there was about 10 more chapters until the actual series had ended, which meant the rest of the story was going to be from Marie Antoinette's perspective, which I hate. As I said, I'm going to be doing a revised analysis of the Lady Oscar film later in the year, but that film really gave me the impression that this would end with Oscar. Especially how the last 2 volumes centered Oscar as the main character, and we not only forgot, but started to greatly dislike Marie Antoinette as a character, or at least I did, because she started to be more frustrating, as you kind of are supposed to dislike Marie Antoinette for a little bit, as she's just starting to be more unlikable towards the people of France, and how Oscar is supposed to be like the opposite, like they're going their separate ways essentially. But no, the story did not in fact end with Oscar. No, it started with Marie Antoinette, and it was gonna fucking end with Marie Antoinette. It had to end with her too, which I don't necessarily mind, but the end of the book felt way more like a history lesson than the end of a proper story. You knew they, like when I say that, it's based on history, it's historical fiction. You knew they were going to die. So you were just sort of like waiting for that moment to happen. And that's what made me a little conflicted towards the end. The heart and the soul of the series is Oscar, and Oscar fucking dies before the series actually ends. So the last 10 chapters were in essentially a cat and mouse game of, oh, surely this is when Marie Antoinette dies. Oh no, they're letting her live. Oh, surely this is when Marie Antoinette dies. Oh no, they let her live again. And when you know the history, this is a historical fiction after all, you know how she dies, which I guess made it more frustrating for me. What I also found frustrating about the last couple of chapters, and generally the entire story, was Thurston's character as a whole. I really don't like his character, because once again, it's, my love is gonna be killed. Oh no, she's fine, I must flee. My love is going to be killed, I must save her. Oh no, she's fine, I must flee. My love is gonna be killed, I must save her. Dude, stay the fucking Sweden. Oh my god. For 10 chapters, this goes on after Oscar is dead, and he dies in the most underwhelming way of being mobbed by his own people deserved dumbass. Now I know he's based on a real person and that really happened, but this is the fucking character. Deserved dumbass. I did not like his character, to be 100% honest. And I also don't understand why it's highlighted that he's an important character when he's as much of a side character as Rosalie. And Rosalie is as much of a standing character who truly has no real purpose other than to be drama. I do love Rosalie is one of my favorite characters, but I can recognize that she's kind of just a nothing burger of a fucking character. And in my defense of loving Rosalie, technically her presence actually makes a queer reading of this novel much more interesting. But my point is that the protagonists of The Rose of Versailles is Oscar and Marie Antoinette. Why is Fersen important enough that his birth and death are emphasized in the start and end of the story? I understand he was a part of this little love triangle and that he's a real historical figure that is important to the history of Marie Antoinette, but if we're being honest here, Oscar had so many people in love with her. So many other historical figures, and I don't understand how Fersen is just that much more important than any other character when he is about as present in this series as Rosalie. Andre is more present than him because we have the whole Andre shadowing Oscar thing. Why? I don't understand why his birthday specifically is emphasized, and that is quite like frustrating to me because he's just not a likable character and he's just not. Maybe he's important to the fucking plot in some essence because he does try to make Marie Antoinette escape Paris and escape France, but that still does not justify to me why he is so heavily emphasized as a main character when there is no perspective of his in the story. We aren't following Fersen, we are following Oscar and Marie Antoinette. He is a side character. I'm also happy that Oscar did in fact witness the death of Andre and was with him when he passed away, unlike in the Lady Oscar film where she just wanders into obscurity. I overall loved the series. I would have preferred the story to end on Oscar, but I understand why it did not, as truly it is Oscar and Marie Antoinette's story overall. Personally, I gave this volume an 8 out of 10 solely because I didn't like the fact that Oscar died and then the rest of the story was sort of just history lesson. But that being said, I will once again be watching Lady Oscar and will be analyzing it in a more knowledgeable aspect and sort of give my points onto why I think the Lady Oscar film is good and bad in some degrees, because now that I know the knowledge that I know, I'm just sitting here going, what, ha 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 ha, this is really important to the story. Why is it not there? The exact reaction Mia had to the film, I am now remembering the film and going, why was that not included? Now I will say this first of all, Rosalie's character not being included in the film, I do actually understand. I just don't understand why she was mentioned in the first place when you could have essentially removed I think it's Joan. You could have essentially removed Rosalie from Joan's life, but that is a video for another day and another month. So, thank you guys so much for watching. That has been all of my manga and anime for April and March of 2024. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoy reading the manga. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below. That being said, I have got a lot of manga to read. And yes, next week there will in fact be a video of me rearranging these bitches, because I just did that. And I promise my love mix-up is coming out soon. I've not been having a good time editing this fucking video. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I will see you guys next week. Comment down below if you have any recommendations for me for manga. I really love reading them and I love hearing your opinions on my opinions. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.